Hello and welcome, everyone. It's been quite a while. I feel like every time I see you guys, I say it's been quite a while, which is really, it reflects on us. We have to be a little more consistent, certainly. But happy to see everyone, happy to be here. And the NFL playoff race is ramping up. Perfect time to ramp up the podcast again. And we're going to talk about the playoff race today. We're going to talk about some of these games this week, Meisty, that have huge playoff implications, that have huge playoff leverage. We're going to get into all of that coming up in a minute.
I think you might notice a little bit of a different voice right now leading you off. That is because Yehuda, the original guest star.
You're not a guest. You're one of us. We have to be switching our whole name because of you.
No, don't give away our secrets.
But you knew, the Ravens need one touchdown. The Broncos might score one more field goal. So if you get one more touchdown,
Yeah, you went 10-9, call it a day.
you can win 10-9.
I'm going to go with the Commanders as well, just because it's too much of a question mark over there under center for the...
I can't believe you saw that right now. That's asinine. You're crazy.
He's got
You're
the
crazy.
full package. He's
No
got
way.
The speed.
I don't care.
Ball.
No way. I can't even. It's hard to even look at you right now when you say something like that. That's crazy. Okay. And guess what? In basketball, you use a basketball. In football, you use a football.
All right, here we go, Meisty. We're back. How are we feeling, Meisty, on this beautiful Thursday?
Yeah, I can't complain. I mean, this was it's a beautiful thing to be back here. This is what we live for. This is why we do it. And football is in full swing. I mean, what a crazy season we're having, which we'll get into. And this is a huge playoff week, and some teams are going to be eliminated this week. Some teams are going to fight for their lives. I mean, even tonight's game, which probably most people will already have figured out the final for tonight's game by the time this comes out, or by the time they listen to this. But that's okay. We're here either way, and let's dive in.
No, I agree with a lot of your sentiments. It's been a wild year this year in the NFL, and a lot of it's because of the parity, I think. Been talking a lot the last few weeks to a bunch of my friends about the NFL's kind of one of those leagues where the best team and the worst team are not that far apart from each other. You could see the Saints beating the Bills any given week. I mean, heck, the Dolphins beat the Bills by 15 plus just a few weeks ago. The Bills lost to the Falcons by 30 plus, but then they go out and beat the Chiefs. But then the Chiefs are a team that are 6-6 this year. There's so much confusion. Then you have the Bears out of nowhere are 9-3 and beating the Eagles and are the number one seed in the NFC. Then you have the most confusing team in the league by far, which is the Carolina Panthers. I mean, I think for them, you just alternate weeks, and if you want to pick them, right? 1 week loss, 1 week win.
This week they're going to lose by 9.
1 week after losing to the Saints, they go on and beat the Packers, and they go on and beat the Bucks, and they go on, not the Bucks, that's coming up. They go on and beat the Packers, and they go on and beat the Rams, who everyone was number one in everyone's power rankings last week. Try figuring out the NFL this year. You can't. And meanwhile, as we were just discussing a little bit ago, the Ravens, Bills, and Chiefs were the dominant teams from the AFC. 2 of them might not even make the playoffs. The Bills are not really playing at such a high level this year. All 3 can potentially not make the playoffs this year. This is just an absolute... Meanwhile, you have the Patriots, Colts, and Broncos competing for the number 1 seed in the AFC. It's mayhem. It's absolute mayhem. And how do we make sense of all this, Meisty? How do we make sense of all this? I think that's what the people want to know. So where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Yeah, I mean, first, I think foremost, we have tonight's game, which we can dive into at some point. I mean, the Cowboys have also started off the season looking like one of the, not the worst team, but one of the worst teams. Couldn't get it together. Then all of a sudden they started winning. They strung together a few wins. They hung around. Dak Prescott's been playing. I mean, the defense was garbage. Then they trade for Quinn Williams. They've been one of the best rushing defenses since trading for him. They go ahead and George Pickens, what an addition. You know me, I'm a George Pickens guy.
I was going to bring that
George Pickens. Yeah, I have to bring that up. I mean, he's the second best receiver in the league, technically, according to the stats of yards and stuff like that. He fantasy points and any other certain metrics. He is just playing out of his mind. He was obviously on the Steelers struggling. This is an absolute. I mean, this is mayhem. Season is mayhem. As a Ravens fan, it stinks because we're in the in that struggling area. We can't beat this team. We can't beat that team, but we beat these teams. We go on a run. We got crushed by the Bengals. So I think we're looking at maybe I think now and then the Chiefs and the Bills, like you said, nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense. The Eagles, who are obviously, I mean, they have a gauntlet schedule, but the Eagles, who are struggling to win games, but they've been winning. Now they're losing games. I think it's going to be one of the most exciting weeks, 16, 17, 18s. The playoff machine will be in full swing on this podcast.
Ooh.
And I can't wait to get Yehuda back, hopefully next week, and so on.
I cannot wait for the playoff machine. That's my favorite time of year. So let's start. I think this is the way I want to structure it. We're going to talk about the 7 games from this week that have the most playoff leverage. The games that this team wins, they have this percentage of a chance of making the playoffs. This team loses, they have this percentage of amount of chance. And there's tons of them around the league. So we're in week 14 this week, and playoff implications are high. So let's start with the game tonight, Thursday night. Hopefully we'll try to get this out before Thursday night. We'll see if that can happen so that people can have this preview. Cowboys and Lions. You mentioned the Cowboys defense. I do very much think that the Cowboys defense has been playing better the last 3 weeks. Their PFF grade has been 70 plus the last 3 games. The Raiders game, it's the Raiders. How much can you throw into it? But then they had the 21-0 comeback against the Eagles. That Chiefs game, I think, was a very high leverage game for the Chiefs. Almost a must win for them. This week is even more of a must win, as we'll get into. But almost a must win for them, and the Cowboys showed up. And I thought Mahomes actually had one of his better games of the season, but Dak and that off, like, that's the thing about the Cowboys. You get Quinnen Williams, the run stopping gets a little better, the pass rush is just slightly better. You just get the defense going a little bit, like they don't need to be. I think in the first half of the year, Deron Bland was just giving up tons of big plays, and he was kind of that guy that, like, he's supposed to create big plays. The 6 pick sixes last year, whatever he had, right? You had Trayvon Diggs with the 11 interceptions, but these guys are also prone to giving up big plays because they play more of that riskier type of cornerback style. So if you could just have some of those talented guys playing more up to their potential and playing like a decent average defense, like Dak Prescott's been cooking. CeeDee Lamb, and you said Pickens has been better than Lamb this year. We know how big of a fan you are of CeeDee Lamb. So I think if they could just get cooking a little bit, the problem is, as we'll look at the percentages here, Meisty, I think the problem for the Cowboys is not their roster. I think they have a roster that's capable of making a run. The problem is, according to CBS Sports at least, the Cowboys don't have a great chance of making the playoffs. They might have just fell into too big of a hole. So if they win this game, they currently have a 25% chance of making the playoffs, the Cowboys. If they win this game, they have a 42% chance of making the playoffs. If they lose the game, they have a 19% chance of making the playoffs. That dips below 20. Then they go to 6-6-1. And remember, they're now a game and a half behind the Niners, who are 9-4, the last seed in the NFC right now, right? So they're a game and a half. They essentially... And, it's confusing because the Cowboys, tiebreakers don't matter this year. They have to actually jump the team that they want to play, right? So they're essentially 2 games back of the Niners with only 5 games left. This becomes an absolutely enormous game for them. And if they want to make the playoffs, and aside from the fact that they're half a game behind the Lions, we'll get to the Lions in a second, but from a Cowboys perspective, if they want to make the playoffs, they absolutely need to win today.
Yeah, I mean, besides for just the win and to go back against, Dak Prescott, who's probably taken, out of all the quarterbacks in the league to, we'll call it the better half, the top 20 of the quarterbacks, not that bottom who are just don't deserve a spot, but the top 20 quarterbacks in the league, Dak Prescott's probably gotten the most hate out of any quarterback. I mean, people just love to hate on Dak Prescott. Yeah, maybe he's a Cowboy. Maybe it's because Stephen A. Smith likes to talk all his smack, so they fall into that. But whatever it is, whatever it might be, the Dak Prescott has been playing. I don't want to say it, he is the MVP, but he has been playing an MVP caliber football in a year where obviously Mahomes and Lamar and Josh Allen have not been. And, your MVP leaders right now are guys like Drake May and Matthew Stafford. I mean, a couple weeks ago, Jonathan Taylor was talked about as an MVP candidate. So obviously that's fallen off. But we'll get into that. But I also think, with the defense, and this is where Micah Parsons' trade was one of the most wildest trades that I've ever seen in my life. But Micah Parsons would put the pressure on the quarterback, which helps the guys in the back be able to make riskier plays because ball's got to get out quicker. There's not a lot. But now without Micah Parsons, there's not a lot of pass rush. The team was not doing so well at the line. And they were struggling, and the riskier plays were not paying off. And the only reason why they stayed in any game is because Dak Prescott and that offense was moving the ball up and down the field. But now you have a better defense. Defense is coming together. Schottenheimer is Coach Schottenheimer. He's playing. He's coaching them. He's coaching them wherever he can. I mean, here's the question, Rocky: is Jerry Jones secretly a good GM? I mean, George Pickens, Quentin Williams. I mean, this. You got. I mean, yeah, Micah Parsons. We thought he was losing it. He is, but where is he secretly? Howie Roseman. I don't know about that, but. But this game for the Dallas Cowboys is tremendous, and for the Lions as well. I think this game comes down to it's almost a must win for the Lions. They have injuries. I'm trying to think of their schedule. Obviously, we were talking about it before. My computer's not working at the moment. It's trying to reset.
I'll pull it up.
The Lions schedule, I don't think it's the easiest schedule. So you have a game like this. I think they have to play the Bears or the Packers at least.
They
one
have
more
an
time.
extremely tough schedule down the stretch. They have the Cowboys, Rams, Steelers, Vikings, Bears. So it's pretty tough. Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, that's not that's not a schedule you want to be looking at when you're like, oh, we have to win, 3 out of 5 games or whatever it is. So they are the team that they have to win 3 out of the next 5 to not even guarantee them a spot in the playoffs. That's tonight's obviously huge. And we'll get into next week, but they have to win probably 3 or 4 out of those 5 games to really end up. Their best hope is somehow the Bears clinch the 1 seed going into Week 18, and they could just. Yeah, I don't even think the Bears. I think the Bears would try to play spoiler though, but I think that that's your best hope is that the Bears don't really try in Week 18, and that's going to help you win. I don't know if Amon-Ra is playing tonight. I haven't seen the news, but I think that we are looking at a crazy game tonight. I think a very high scoring game. I think that this is where Dan Campbell's. Go for it on 4th down every time is either gonna make it or break it for them. And I think this is crazy because both teams are in a must-win situation almost. I mean, yeah, the Lions have a little bit more leeway, and we've talked about this before the podcast. The amount of teams, the Ravens, for example, or any other, and the Chiefs and the Bills even. Most of these teams they've been playing playoff games for the last couple weeks, and every week's a playoff game down the stretch with. A little leeway here and a leeway here, but everyone's playing playoff games right now. Who's going to last in these playoffs?
Yeah,
to make the playoffs.
First of all, the point about Micah Parsons is very true. Just going back to that for a second, because the Cowboys, you're right that a lot of their secondary woes probably are a result of losing Micah Parsons. Right? They can't really. It used to be that Deron Blank could take some chances because he knew that Micah Parsons was going to rush the passer, in the front 7, but he doesn't have that anymore. So the back end can't rely on the front end, and then it's trickle down effect. Micah Parsons has been great this year in Green Bay. I mean, he's if you want to ask if Jerry Jones has been a great GM, that was a horrible move in my opinion. He's one of the best pass rushers in the league. He's been for a long time. This notion that he's washed up is not true. Like even games where he doesn't get any sacks, he has 7 or 8 pressures. He has one of the best pass rush win rates in the league this year, like only behind Myles Garrett, maybe one other. So he's been insane. But the Cowboys, Jerry Jones is not a bet. Listen, the Cowboys have been all press is good press. Ask Jerry Jones that. You know what I'm saying? So the Cowboys have been getting attention for as long as I've been alive and watching football. This has been the most discussed team in the league. No matter if they're good or bad, they're generally pretty good. They're generally in there, and they're generally a competitive team. So that says more about the GM. So yeah, in terms of that, I agree. In terms of the Lions, it's a little dicey for them because this is not a team going into the season for the Cowboys to be 6-5-1 right now. Okay, fine, it's not crazy, right? You saw the vulnerabilities on defense, but for the Lions to be on the outside looking in with 4 games left was not a place I think any of us saw them being at this point in the season. So they're at a point where if they win this game, 54% chance, according to CBS Sports, to make the playoffs. If they lose, they're down to a 10% chance to make the playoffs. So
the Lions or the Lions?
The Lions. So it's interesting. Currently, the Lions have a 13% better chance to make the playoffs than the Cowboys. But with a loss, their chances dip further than the Cowboys would with a loss. A very fascinating concept. You have that with certain teams when you factor in tiebreakers. That's what
yeah. I mean, look at the Cowboys. The Cowboys have a much easier schedule down the stretch a little bit. Not as maybe not the most hopeful, but definitely a better schedule. I think they play the Commanders and they play or they play the Commanders twice already. No, they play the Commanders. They play who do I see? I saw earlier today. I was looking at it, but the Cowboys just have a much easier schedule down the stretch than the team like the Lions and the 49ers, for example, also have an interesting schedule. They have to play within their division, and any division game is going to be tough for the most part. And
Yeah, no, absolutely. They both. I mean, the Lions certainly have the tougher schedule. We discussed that, but it's also listen. Terry and Arnold was their best cornerback. Is out for the next 4 games. He's out for probably the remainder of the regular season. And Amon Ra, like you said, might not play today. I don't know. That's going to have big fantasy implications.
banged up for sure. Whether or not he's playing or not, he's banged up. He's been banged up
in a limited capacity, presumably correct. So that's going to certainly affect them, and they need this win. This is against a team that's right on their tail, also. So this, out of all the games we're going to discuss this week, this is up there with the one with the most playoff implications. But the thing that gives us a little less playoff implications is the fact that neither of these teams are in the playoffs as of now. But both these teams need to jump the other one, right? Both these teams with a loss would go behind the other one. So that's where it comes into there.
Are you a fan of Dan Campbell's fourth down, go for it always situation? Like, where does Rocky Friedman's Batman? Where does the Rocky Friedman of the world hold of this?
It's a longer discussion. Maybe we could have as like a bonus podcast next week at some point. I think the discussion about fourth downs in the NFL is nuanced, very nuanced. And I think you could have a nuanced discussion about 2-point conversions. And there are extremes, okay? You have Dan Campbell, who's like fourth and any 5 or anything less at our own 40 or anything more, we're going for it, right? Okay, maybe a little too extreme. Then you have Mike Tomlin, who's like 4th and 1 out of our own 45. We have a half a yard to get. Let's punt the ball for no reason whatsoever. And we're down by 7. As he's done 3 times this season, right? So, and they've lost every game, I think, that he's done that. Maybe the Colts game, I think he did that and they won that game, but that's because they forced 5 turnovers. But anyway, so my point is, like, I don't like the Tomlin thing I like less than the Dan Campbell thing. Of course, it gives you a competitive edge to have an extra down. At the same time, it gives the other team a competitive edge. And there's also another factor to it. Nowadays you have kickers that can kick from 70 yards, right? So if I'm at my own 40-yard line, whatever, Ken Little hit a 68-yarder. He hit 170 in the preseason. I bet you Aubrey, give it a couple of years, Aubrey will get one from 70. I mean, he's hit 65-yarders with 7 or 8 yards to spare. So someone will get it. But anyway, we've had a 68-yarder, and it was pretty predictable before the season this was going to happen. Point is, guys, all you got to do is get to the 45-yard line, and you're in field goal range. It's not great field goal range, but it's field goal range. So if going for it around midfield gives the other team field goal position. Somewhat field goal position. So there's that factor to it. But what's the upside? A lot of it is situational. I think just to sum it, because we want to go to the other games. Again, I think a lot of it is situational, okay? Obviously, if you're down and you need the extra down, and you need to move the ball, you need to score a touchdown, you keep on going. If the most interesting scenario in football is you're up by 3, this is, by the way, in the analytical world, this is big hawk, okay? If you're up by 3, and there's 3 minutes left, and you're at the 30-yard line, and it's 4th and 1, right? 4th and 2. I'd say 4th and 2.
Saying you're up by how much?
You're up by 3.
Oh, by 3.
You're at the 25-yard line. Decent, good field goal, easy field goal range, right? 4th and 2. I could kick it and go up by 6. But does 3 and 6 really make that big of a difference? I could get the first down. Let's say 2 minutes left. I'm sorry, let's say 2 minutes left. I can get the first down and end the game. So first down is a game winner. Field goal, I might lose anyway. So this is a big hawk in there where they're like up by. Essentially, the analytical world does not like to go up by 6. They don't feel it helps much. That's their thing.
Just to I will say this. If I like the teams that happened a couple times over the last couple of weeks where a team was within the 5-yard line in that situation and they went for it on 4th down and they didn't actually get it. Because one time they did, maybe one time they didn't, but they didn't get it, and the other team got the ball at the 5-yard line, had to go 95 yards down the field, and try to score, and they didn't, and it ended up paying off. Now, I do like that because you're making a team drive down the field. I think that was a Dan Campbell thing.
A factor as well. The other thing is field position is a factor as well. Agreed.
Now, I do agree though. Now, when a team, and this is, if you're a team in that situation, 25-yard line, and you're up by 3, if you don't get it, a lot of times the other team, their game plan is get to field goal range. It's not score a touchdown. It's get to field goal range so we can tie the game. And the clock runs, and they don't get to, and they try to get to field goal range, and if they get to field goal range, they end up tying it. If you give up the touchdown, you lose the ball game.
They also have to add to your point. They also have a quarter less plays to get there because once they get to the 40-yard line, they're getting conservative. They're in field goal range already, right? So they're not going to go for the fourth down.
Correct. Correct. They're not going for a fourth down. They're also not throwing it deep to the end zone normally because they don't want to turn the ball over. So they get to they get to field goal range. Being up by 6 in field goal range sounds nice, but they're going to go for the touchdown if they're up by 6 and you're going to lose. If you're up by 3, I don't like it. Maybe if you're from the 30, even the 25-yard line, that's good field position or that's normal field position. I think if you're within the 20-yard line to go for it and try to get that first down or get the touchdown. I do think, and I think with Yehuda we'll get a different angle on this also, so we'll get into it another time.
I would love to hear his take on
it. We'll probably continue to talk about this because I'm sure it's going to happen again this week.
I think we should pick up this conversation next week with Yehuda because I think this is a great midweek podcast, not related to any of the games, just to hit some topics, especially because we haven't covered anything in a while, and I think this is a great topic to discuss, and I can also compile some numbers and be a little more prepared for that. I think that's a great conversation to have. So I mean, listen, this has been big hawk in the NFL.
Homework.
And by the way, it's affected a lot of different aspects of the game, but we'll get into that a little more next week, hopefully. Okay, so let's go into the next game. Texans Chiefs. This one's massive, Meisty. This one's massive. And it's very similar to Lions Cowboys in the sense that neither of these teams are currently in playoff position. But yet we both kind of assume the Chiefs, just wait. They'll get there eventually. Even though they're 2 games back, they'll get there. And the Texans are only 1 game back, and they have the tiebreaker with the Bills, and they still have a couple games with the Jaguars left who are ahead of them, and they still have another game with the Colts. And the defense is really good, and we're kind of like, we kind of like assume these are 2 playoff teams, even though currently they're not. I mean, even though eventually they might be. So let's look at it from the Texans' perspective first, okay? The Texans actually have a 59% chance of making the playoffs. I think that's a combination of tiebreaker with the Bills. They still have games against the Jaguars and Colts to go, so everything's in front of them, right? I think that's what it is with the Texans. With a win, they jump to 85%. 85%. I think that's because the only thing other than what's in front of them holding them back is the Chiefs. If they do the Chiefs, the only thing they need to do is take care of their division games that they're playing, right? Everything's in their hands at that point. With a loss, they only go down to 44. With a loss, they only go down to 44 because it's not a must-win for the Texans. Because even if they lose, the Chiefs, there's more pressure on the Chiefs to kind of win out. The Texans, number one, could still win their division because they still have all that in front of them, and they could still get a wild card if the Chiefs don't win the rest of their games, right? So it's still they control their own destiny even with a loss, most likely here. Okay, that's what I think. Now, it's still a big game for them. Number one, if you're the Texans, and I believe that the Texans have a shot in this year, of all years, as we discussed in the beginning, the anomaly of an NFL year, I actually think they have a shot to make a run this year. A dominant defense, generally speaking, I would say dominant defense. Come on, you need some good quarterback play. I don't think Stroud's been great this year, but like you've seen, even with Davis Mills, they've been able to.
Last week.
What do you say?
He looked good last week, CJ.
Yeah, he's had some good performances, but I think overall he's definitely, like, his rookie year was his peak, and he's kind of regressed a little bit. But I think certainly the defense is so dominant, especially up front with Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter. Oh my gosh, they wrecked Josh Allen on Thursday night last time they played. That was unbelievable. I think this defense, coupled together with they still have Nico and Higgins and some good weapons, Dalton Schultz, like they can go on a run this year. So I think for the Texans to sneak into the playoffs and to take away the Chiefs, to take the Chiefs out of contention, I think is the biggest deal of this game. The Texans could take away one of their biggest contenders on the way to a potential Super Bowl run. That's what I think.
Yeah, Dan Katz from Pardon My Take, he has something every year after like week 3 or 4. He has something called the Pinky Team, he calls it. And he says that if this team, a team that should not make the playoffs, if they win the Super Bowl, he'll cut the tip of his pinky off. And so this year, after being 0-2, 0-3, or whatever the Texans started, he chose the Texans as his pinky team. So he's very hoping they don't make a run. Yeah, but I do agree with you majorly that the Texans have what it takes to be the Texans have what it takes to be a Super Bowl team. They have what it takes to make a run. They have what it takes, especially in a year like this year, where teams like the Chiefs, the Bills can miss the playoff and it could be wide open for them. And CJ Stroud has, technically has playoff experience. He has, experience in the NFL. He knows the pressure of playing in the games. I think the Texans are one of those teams to look forward to. And then as well, like you said, they don't even have to win this game. They could beat the Jaguars. They could beat the Colts. They could win the division, and they could have lost this game and be like, well, that game didn't matter. Now, obviously, in the playoffs, they'd probably meet the Chiefs again or something like that, and it would be a very dangerous game for them. But I do believe that the Texans have what it takes to be very good. They say if the Cleveland Browns had a half decent offense, they would be a very good team. That is what the Texans are.
Right.
The Texans have a very good defense.
Good way to put it.
With a good enough offense, and they can put it together. On the flip side, obviously the Browns are way out of contention, but maybe the Browns have found their answer at quarterback after all these years.
Dylan Gabriel, you're talking about, I see.
I was talking to Sean Watson is coming back to practice.
That's not my bad, right? Of course. By the way, that story reminds me of in the Thursday night game with the Steelers Bengals. There was a Steelers reporter that said that if the Steelers lost to the Bengals, because of course Joe Flacco was the starting quarterback at that point, right? And not only that, Mike, that was one of the funniest games of the season because Mike Tomlin's like earlier that week, he's like the Browns just traded Flacco to the Bengals, right? And Tomlin's like,
yeah,
why would if he was good enough to be your opening day starter, why would you trade him within the division? And we're all like, number one, the Browns don't actually think they have a chance of winning the division this year. That's number one. Number two, he's Joe Flacco. Like, first of all, he was horrible, and happens to be he played well in the Bengals, but no. And all of a sudden, he goes out there, balls out, and beats the Steelers. And the Steelers reporter said, "Listen to this, Meisty." The Steelers reporter said, "If we lose this game, I'll get a nipple piercing." Did you see this?
I did. He did get the nipple piercing too.
He followed through with it. So anyway,
he wanted the nipple piercing. He was just saying, "I got a nipple piercing." He said he went home. He's like, "Honey, I told them I get it. I can't let them down. I can't let the fans down."
So that's you're saying it was just an excuse, yeah, perhaps. But so that just reminded me of that anecdote. But anyway, the Chiefs with a win go up to 54%, which is significant. With a loss, they go down to 9% chance to make the playoffs. This is a massive, massive game for the Chiefs. I think it's almost safe to say that if the Chiefs lose this game, their season is in dire straits. Let's put it like that. Not over yet.
Don't ever say until it's a little.
I said dire straits. I chose my words carefully. I didn't say it was over. I said dire straits specifically because I think they're in a very difficult situation, a situation in which they must win out and have no room for error anymore because the wild card team, the 7th seed in the AFC as it's looking right now is probably going to have 10 wins. So they're probably going to have 10 wins. Right? Every wild card team right now has 8 and there's 5 games left. So in all likelihood, you're going to have 10 wins. You're not going to win the division anymore. You're 4 games back. Your only chance is a wild card. You're probably going to have 10. If you lose this week, you got to win every other game to 10. And by the way, they're playing the Raiders. They're playing the Titans. They have some winnable games in there, but it's a huge game for the Chiefs. And this is one of those teams you have to jump. So aside from needing to win every game for the rest of the season, you need other things to happen as well if you lose this game. Because now you're 2 games behind everyone plus the Texans. So 4 teams. And potentially Ravens, Steelers, whatever. Still in there. So it's a massive game for the Chiefs. It's a massive game. It's about as it's I saw that the Colts game was the biggest playoff leverage game the Chiefs have had in the Mahomes era. Because the Chiefs, Meisty, let's think the Chiefs have never been on the cusp of missing the playoffs. They've had scares like last year, like 2 years ago. But they've never really been this close to being a 9% chance to make the playoffs. This is one of the biggest regular season games the Chiefs have had in the Mahomes era. I don't think that's hyperbole.
No. And they're getting close. I mean, this is close.
The fact they got it Sunday night, good for them.
This is crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, that's going to be a huge game. So, you know what? Let's predict the game. So, we have the Lions are favored. Let's go back to that. We have the Lions are favored 3.5. What you got for that one?
Lions favorite. At the Lions, correct?
Lions. What do you say? Yeah, it's in Detroit.
It's at Lions.
It's in Detroit.
I think, first of all, there's the injuries. I can't believe that they're still 3.5-point favorites. I don't even know if they still are. But I would take very much so. I would take here the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are going to win this game. I think it's going to come down to Brett Aubrey with I don't know, big long field goal in the dome. No one can stop him. And he's gonna send it through. Got my computer on, which is nice.
I tend to agree with you. I'm going with the Lions at 3.5, and then the Chiefs are favored by 3. And I mean, the Chiefs can't lose this game, and right, like you gotta assume they're gonna make the playoffs and pull it out somehow. So I guess you gotta go with the Chiefs at 3. 3.5, maybe I debate. Texans, I could see them winning a 1-score game. The Chiefs, like a 3-point game, but I think at 3, I'm gonna go with the Chiefs. What do you think about that? Chiefs by 3 at home.
Listen, my heart tells me that I want the Texans to win, obviously, and everyone wants the Texans to win. But I'm gonna have to assume the Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs are. I mean, they have to win. They are in a playoff game, and there's nobody better in recent years in playoff games than Patrick Mahomes. Give me Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes.
Give me Patty.
All right. So what I want to do now is, I want to look at some games. We'll save Steelers Ravens for the end. I want to look at some games that. Are you still there, Meisty?
Yeah, am I? Did I disappear?
Froze a little bit, yeah. Yeah, there you go. I got you. I want to look at some games that don't have necessarily playoff berths on the line, but playoff implications seeding-wise. So let's look at the Bears-Packers, okay? The Chicago Bears, as we discussed, are the most surprising team in the league this year. They started 4-2 last year, started 0-2, won 4 straight, and then they lost every game until the end of the season. And then they started 4-2 this year. And remember, they went into Baltimore with Tyler Huntley, and the Ravens needed to win that game to keep their season alive. And the Ravens beat them pretty handily. The Ravens outplayed them in every facet, offensively, defensively. They couldn't force the turnovers that they been relying on. Right. And everyone's like, 4-3. They lost to backup quarterback. They haven't lost a game since then, Meisty. What's happening with the Chicago? And then, you're also like, they haven't really had that many impressive wins. Let's see them beat the Eagles. They did that. Pretty, by the way, outplayed.
Crushed them, by the way.
The Eagles have their own struggles. That's true, and that's a different thing. We'll actually discuss the Eagles game a little later, but that's true. But the point is that they're now they've now beaten the team they needed to overcome for the number 1 seed in the NFC. So we're looking at a situation where the Bears have an 82% chance to make the playoffs. Now, this game against the Packers is huge for seeding because the Packers are half a game back, and they're both competing for the number 1 seed. So in terms of number 1 seeding, this game is absolutely huge, Meisty. And I think
I'm with you still. I'm still with you. Still with you.
I think that if we're being realistic about the Bears, they're not that good. I'm sorry.
We're being realistic about the Bears. They're not that good.
They've won a bunch of games by 1 score, by thin margins, and 5 plays are the difference between them being 4-9 and 8-9-3. 4-10 and 9-3. Caleb Williams has been fine. I think he's gelled a little better with Ben Johnson as the years progressed, but I'm not betting on the Bears to get the number 1 seed. I think they'll make the playoffs because they have a big enough leap right now. But I give the Packers a much higher chance to get the number 1 seed. But this is a big game, and we'll see what happens. But I think the Bears are pretenders, not contenders. And I'm going to put the Packers in that contenders thing. And that's why I'm going to pick the Packers in this game personally. They're favored by, let me see. Whatever they're favored by, I'll probably take them. I'm definitely going to take money line, but anyway. Yeah, so that's what I think. I think the Bears are pretenders, Meisty. Pretenders.
Pretenders. Rocky has Bears. That's right. Put that on a graphic for us. Where's Motka? Put that on a graphic. Bears are pretenders.
Mark it down. Quote me. They're not that good. They've been heavily reliant on turnovers. They've been heavily reliant on turnovers.
You remember what's his name? You remember Ernie Johnson used to have the Ernie Johnson on NBA on TNT used to have the every time Charles Barkley said something stupid, he would write it down and put it on.
I don't remember that, but that's pretty legendary.
No, but I do think the Bears, I wouldn't say they're Super Bowl contenders as, maybe they would like to be. I do think they have one of the best coaches in the league. I do think that they have, but you said you brought this up. those one-score games, Rocky, that's what makes you a good team. That's when you need to win those games. You see, for example, last year the Chiefs were like 11-2 in one-score games or whatever it was. This year, it's the opposite. They're like 2-5 on one-score games. The Chiefs. That's a huge aspect in that sense of, hey, games on the line. We need to go down and score a touchdown. Or hey, games on the line. We need one stop. Make the stop. Score the touchdown. Make the play that you need to make. Yeah. Does the game come out looking ugly overall? Sure. But at the end of the day, if you're putting putting a new number in the win column, that's what's important. And in one-score games, that's what you need. You need to know, hey, in the playoffs, because in the playoffs, Rocky, what's going to happen? In the playoffs, you're going to play a team. You're not just going to crush them. You're going to play a team, and it's going to be a close game. You're going to play the Rams, let's say, in the NFC Championship game, possibly, and you're going to have to say, hey, what's going to happen? You're going to have to beat them, and it's not going to be a four-score game. It's going to be a one-score game. Can you pull off the one-score game?
My problem is it's not sustainable. So your example of the Chiefs is the exact reason why I don't believe in the Bears this year. Because the Chiefs literally are the same exact
Agreed.
team. The Chiefs are practically the same team this year than they were last year. The same thing. The difference is the Raiders didn't drop the Raiders didn't drop a field goal at the end of the game. They didn't block a field goal against the Broncos. They didn't the Falcons didn't botch an overtime comeback. The Panthers didn't botch their fourth quarter drive. The Isaiah Likely didn't step out. I mean, all these tiny little things. It was the difference between the Chiefs winning 9 games and 15 games last year, and now it's going back the other way. So for the Bears, all you need is one play to go another way. And they're losing a bunch of these games. And eventually when they go up with teams against like the Lions, like the Packers, when they go up against better teams, especially if they have to go in the playoffs, I don't think that winning by such thin margins is going to be a sustainable path to victory.
And I agree. So I wouldn't put them as contenders, but I won't put them as pretenders. I kind of have them kind of where a team like the Bears want to be, in that middle ground of, hey, this is fine. We're not the best team right now, but we're a playoff team. You know, they are the 1 seed. We're going to build off this, though. They're going to lose in the playoffs, probably in a dramatic triple doink fashion, just like typical the Bears play. Then the it's going to be, then it's, hey, what can we do next year? And you have the coach for it. Coach is huge. They haven't had a coach in a couple of years. So now they have a good coach. All right? Who can he recruit? What is it they're missing? Is it alignment? Is it a receiver? And they don't need receivers. And they have good running backs. They're offensive line. So maybe it's getting better on defense. Maybe it's, finding someone who can kick field goals. Maybe it's little things like that they need to bring in to make them get over that, hey, we're no longer in that one-score team. Everything is one score. And we start winning games, and showing it. And last week, obviously, was a statement win for them in that sense of, hey, we can go up against any team, even the Eagles, and beat them. I do think they're not Super Bowl contenders. I don't think they'll get into the NFC Championship game. But right now, they have a bye, and that's where they're sitting. So if they win a couple more of these games, and they don't have an easy schedule. They win a couple more games, though, and they're going to be right there.
So 6.5 for the Packers. Where are you going, Meisty? I'm going Packers. How about you?
6.5 favorites the Packers are?
At home. 6.5. By the way, that tells you how much faith the Vegas has in the Bears.
That is just absurd to me to say that they have. I mean, I almost feel bad. Oh, excuse me. I think the Bears keep rolling. I think the Packers struggle. Where did the Packers do last week?
You're going Bears. You're going Bears money line. You're not just going Bears cover the 6.5.
Packers won last week. Give me the Bears.
The Packers aren't the Panthers. They could actually win 2 games in a row. So that's the difference.
We'll see.
All right, fine. Let's move on to the Colts and Jaguars, which also a fascinating game, right, Meisty? Because, who would have thought the Colts and Jaguars have been sitting here at 8-4 fighting for the AFC South? It's a fascinating game. They still play each other twice. The Colts, with a win, give themselves an 89% chance to make the playoffs. The Colts, with a loss, give themselves a 58% chance. The Colts kind of, Meisty, tell me what you think about this take. They remind me of the Jaguars from 2 years ago. The Jaguars were 8-3, cooking. Trevor Lawrence was having his best stretch of his career. They had the number 1 seed in the AFC at that moment in time. Everyone's like, oh, defense is coming together. Trevor Lawrence is coming together. Finally, he's hitting his upside. Number 1 prospect, and this is what it's supposed to look like. And then they lost to the Ravens on that Sunday night game, and they lost every game for the rest of the season and finished the season 8-9. One of the worst collapses. Daniel Jones with his injured fibula. We all know he's Daniel Jones. He's not really that good. The offense was, Alec Pierce was good for one big play every game, and Pittman's a great contested catch receiver, and Warren's they've used him in such an incredible way, and Jonathan Taylor, they have a lot of playmakers, and that maybe will keep them alive throughout the rest of the season. But this team just feels like it's doomed to collapse. No?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you could tell already from the last couple of weeks. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, who was obviously playing at an MVP level in my books, I was waiting for them to start talking about it, and then he fell off. He hasn't scored a touch. He scored one touchdown since they went overseas. I think that the Colts, the injury is going to hurt them. I think that they made a trade. Sauce Gardner got hurt. I don't know if he's coming back. Let's see what Sauce Gardner real quick. Sauce Gardner.
I think the injury wasn't serious. The injury wasn't serious. He might miss a week or two, I think, is what they said.
Okay. Sauce Gardner injury, Colts start reportedly week to week. So that's good for them. I mean, again, they're in a situation exactly like you said. When the Steelers were 10-0, the Titans were a 1 seed. There's always every couple of years, a team like this and the Colts aren't even the 1 seed because there's teams that are flukily being better, but yes, they are the exact same team as the Jaguars. They might not even make the playoffs. They might not even finish third. They might finish third in their division, Rocky, with the Texans and the Jaguars both finishing ahead of them. Texans win this week. Colts win, and the Jaguars beat them this week. They're probably going to be sitting in third in the next 2 weeks and being like, we were never even in the playoffs. They might be out of the bubble soon. And then flip to the flip side.
That's what I was
to the flip side. Liam Cohen's Jaguars.
That's the interesting thing about the Colts is that they went from being potentially the best team in the AFC, this absolute wagon on offense, and to being they could be on the outside looking in because they have so many playoff games remaining. They have so many playoff teams remaining on the schedule.
Yeah, if you think about it, Rocky, the Jacksonville Jaguars, real quick, good to talk about them. They play the Colts this week. Let's say they win this week, right? Next week, they play the Jets. Should be an easy win for that. Well, nothing's easy for the Jaguars, but that's a pretty good game to win. Then you get the Broncos. Okay, fine. You can lose that. That's a freebie. You get that one. Then all you got to do is play the Colts again and the Titans. That's it. You tell me right now, if the Jaguars win 4 out of the next 5 games, they're going to win their division. Even if they win 3 out of those 5 games, they might win their division. They are sitting very pretty for that 4th seed.
Well, that's why with a win, they actually jump up to 95% chance to make the playoffs. With a loss, it's only 68, which is not terrible.
Unbelievable.
95 is very high. And a part of it is the schedule that you're mentioning. Absolutely. But I actually think the Colts are favored by 1.5. Actually, I'm actually going to bet on the Colts this game because if you're asking me which team has a better, I don't believe in either of these teams, to be honest. I think the Texans are more suited to make a playoff run than either of these teams. But if you're asking me which one do I believe in more, it's the Colts because they have playmakers, and playmakers can often outbalance a lot of things. The Jaguars, listen, Travis Hunter's out for the rest of the season. They've been relying on Brian Thomas. I think Trevor
Myers.
I think who?
Kobe Myers.
I think
they got Jacoby Myers in that trade.
I think Trevor Lawrence has developed somewhat of a good connection with Jacoby Myers over the last couple weeks. I think that could prove to be a big pickup for them. I still think they don't have
I think that helps Brian Thomas. I think that helps Brian Thomas maybe open up a little bit. He's returning. I think between the two of them, they have playmakers. Their defense isn't great. But let's talk about the Colts schedule real quick because I love talking schedules with the playoff machine coming up and everything starting in a week or two. The Colts play the Jaguars this week. Then they get Seattle. That's not going to be easy. Then they got to play the 49ers. Definitely not easy. Then they play the Colts. And then they play the Jaguars again, sorry. And then they play the Texans to finish off the season.
Brutal.
That's just not who you want to be playing. That's not how you want to finish your last 5 games. Now, that is brutal.
No. If you're asking me who has a better chance to make the playoffs, it's probably the Jaguars. If you're asking me who's going to win this game, I'm telling the Colts. I think those are 2 separate questions. I think the Colts are better than the Jaguars because they actually, like we saw in the first half of the season, when Daniel Jones is actually getting the ball to his receivers and letting his playmakers yards after catch, like this team really has a lot of good playmakers. When he has the ability to do that, this team can be really dangerous. I don't think the Jaguars have that upside. Trevor Lawrence has just been decent ever since that last stretch of his.
The Colts haven't looked good. the Colts haven't looked good against a good team. I mean, since the Chargers, and even then, the Chargers have been struggling. I mean, the Colts haven't looked good really against anyone.
Well,
I mean, they
agreed,
beat the
which is why
Broncos.
I agree, which is why I don't believe in any of these teams to make a deep playoff run. But I do think the Colts can unlock that high potential. I think their ceiling is higher. Is essentially what I'm saying.
I'm taking the Jaguars. I mean, I'm a Jaguars fan. I bet the Jaguars to win their division, which I think the Texans probably will win that division. But if the Jaguars can pull off the ultimate comeback, that would be very exciting.
Okay, the next game is Eagles-Chargers. Also has pretty high playoff implications. The Eagles probably going to make the playoffs just because the Cowboys started off 3-5-1. This is too far behind. Even though the Eagles have been, by the way, if we get a producer on, Morty, Mark, got to talk about the Eagles a little bit. They've been struggling on offense. I mean, Jalen Hurts hasn't looked good in a while. I think for me, two of the biggest storylines of the season is the struggles of Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson for no reason whatsoever. Don't know why they're not playing well this year. It makes no sense. You could say injuries. You could say the play calling. You could say playmakers not met, but I don't even think it's that as much as it is they're not seeing the field well. And they're not as efficient running the ball as they were in years past. So I think it's been quite weird for them. But the Eagles are sitting pretty right now to make the playoffs. It's 8-4. Remember, the Eagles had a big collapse 2 years ago as well. They lost 6 of the last 7 games, ended up making the playoffs, and then losing by 20 plus to the Bucs in the wild card round. So they're prone to that. But, they have a 90% chance to make the playoffs. With a win, it goes up to 96. They would now bump up. Remember, the Cowboys are a game and a half back, but they need to gain 2 games on them realistically. So if the Eagles win this, 4 games left, Cowboys still need to gain 2. It isn't very likely. And the Eagles have some winnable games left. So they win, it's because 96. I don't think it's such an interesting game on the Eagles side. I think on the Chargers side, this becomes a very interesting conversation because the Chargers' offensive line is a liability. 4/5 of their offensive line is injured. And that's forced Justin Herbert to have to get his time to throw to 2.5 seconds or less. So do they have the talent? Lad McConkey's been a solid number 1 receiver this year. Quentin Johnson's actually stepped up as a number 2 receiver when everyone thought he was a bust. So I actually think they have some playmakers this year. And when Justin Herbert's hitting the upside, he can be just as good as anyone. So I think the Chargers are a good team, but they currently only have a 64% chance to make the playoffs. With a loss, it goes down to 50. I think that's where they are. They're a 50-50 shot. The question for the Chargers is that offensive line going to catch up to them? If Herbert is able to somehow manage behind that offensive line, I think they can get in there. Either way, I'm not confident in them making a playoff run, but I certainly think that the Chargers can make a run at the playoffs. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, I think they can definitely control their own destiny at this point out. I think that they as well. I think they also don't. Let's see right here. Let's pull up their schedule real quick. The Chargers down the stretch. I mean, it doesn't look nice. They play the Eagles. They play the Chiefs. They play the Cowboys. They play the Texans, and they play the Broncos. I think that's the hardest schedule to play. That's got to be. I mean, every one of those teams are fighting in the playoffs for their 1 seed. That is beyond tough. The Chiefs the Chargers. I mean, can lose the next 5 and be sitting right outside the playoffs. And that will help, teams like the Chiefs make the playoffs. But I don't see a way here where the Eagles are going to lose this game. I don't see that. And I think the Eagles, who, talking on a playoff perspective, yes, they're probably going to win their division. They play the Chargers, they play the Raiders, they play the Commanders, they play the Bills, which could be 50-50 game, which would be a good game. And then they play the Commanders again. So, which is, a nice schedule to have. I believe in the Eagles here. I think even in the playoffs, I think the Eagles know what it takes to win a Super Bowl, clearly. The Eagles just have to get it together just a little bit more. And so I believe that the Eagles are going to win this game. I believe the Eagles are better than the Chargers. And I think the Chargers, with Joe Alt out and all the other injuries that they have, it's just a struggle for them. They might just not even make the playoffs, the Chargers.
So they might not make the playoffs. That's why it's a 50% chance. I think that's exactly where you put them. I agree with you. I think the Eagles are going to win this game, and I think because the front 7 of the Eagles is going to absolutely demolish this Chargers offensive line, and the defense is going to be a real problem. I still want to see the Eagles offense play up to its capabilities before I say this is a Super Bowl team. But certainly, I agree with you on the Eagles winning this game. The next game, we have 2 more games left. Bengals-Bills has interesting playoff implications. So the Bills, with a loss, they go down to 73%. With a win, they go up to 94%. I think they have a decent chance. They lost to the Texans, so that doesn't bode well for them. but everything's in front of them. They don't have an overly difficult schedule. I think they're going to go schedule. Let's look at the Bills schedule coming up here. They got the Bengals, they got the Patriots, they got the Browns, they got the Eagles, and they got the Jets. So Browns and Jets are winnable. Patriots and Eagles are going to be tough. They probably only need 2 more wins, maybe 3, so they should be good. Now for the Bengals, the Bills are a different discussion for a different time because that's less playoff implications. More where will they go in the playoffs? The Bengals are very interesting, Meisty. The Bengals currently have a 6% chance at making the playoffs, right?
Stop it. You could just put the little you could put little E. You could put the little E next to their name already. Call it a day. Meisty says put the little E next to their name.
I disagree. With a win, they go up to 13%. With a loss, they go up to 3%. I'll say this though: this game is not overly important for their playoff chances because they have to beat the Ravens, and they have to win every other game after that, right? So whether or not they win this game doesn't really matter. Essentially, the Bengals, if the Bengals win the rest of their games, right? Let's just say they probably will win the division. They will, because the Ravens and Steelers both.
Bengals win out, yes.
Yes, because the Ravens and Steelers, let's say they split. The Ravens will already have 8 losses because they would lose to the Bengals, and the Steelers will just need to lose one other game. So if they win out, all they would need is a Ravens split and Steelers lose one other game, which is overly possible. The Steelers still have the Lions on their schedule. So, you know what I'm saying? That certainly could happen. The Bengals are going to have the tiebreaker with everyone if they win out. So, the Bengals, because of how bad the AFC North is this year, which we'll get to in a second, they have a chance. I'm sorry, they do. Now, what are the chances of them winning out? Not high. But it starts this week. They said if they lose, they go down to 3%. It is a big game for them, obviously. The 3% is minuscule. But 8-9 probably doesn't win the division, but it might. You never know. But anyway, I actually think the Bengals have a better chance to make the playoffs than you do because Burrow's looked good last week in the second half. He did. I'm a Burrow believer. I'm a Burrow-lever. Does that work? Burrow-lever?
Burrow-lever. Something like that.
You're not buying the Bengals. You're not buying the Bengals.
I'm not buying the Bengals. I would buy the Steelers before I buy the Bengals, but I could see the Bengals making a run. Yes, if the Bengals win out and they finish 9-8 on the season, that could put them, for example, like we were talking about before, a team like the Chargers could lose out. But at the end of the day, that means you have to jump the Texans, you have to jump the Steelers, you have to jump the Chiefs, you have to jump even the Dolphins have a better chance than them. Well, not really, but the Dolphins have a better record than them. Just the Dolphins, I think, have a Dolphins schedule as well.
The Dolphins have a better chance. The Dolphins also don't have Joe Burrow, and they're not in the AFC North. So technically, the Bengals have a better chance. If you factor that in, that factors into playoff odds.
3 teams commit. If the Dolphins win out, and that they play, the Dolphins play.
the Jets win out. If the Dolphins win out,
Rocky, hear me out here, Rocky. The Dolphins play the Jets, the Steelers, the Bengals, the Bucks, and then Week 18, they could be facing the Patriots, who might not even play their players.
You're making a case. You're making a case to me.
Rocky, I'm making a case for the Miami Dolphins here. That's at least 3 of those games are winnable. So the next 3 games, they beat the Jets, right? That's a win. They're now what? They're going to be, what's the record? 5-7. So they'll be 6-7, right? Then they play the Steelers, could win that game, 7-7. Play the Bengals, Sunday Night Football apparently, 8-7. Now all of a sudden they have a winning. Next, you know, the Dolphins are 8-7 going up against the Buccaneers. Who knows what the Buccaneers are going to be up to, which we'll discuss eventually, obviously, because they're in the playoff race.
You're pulling me in a little bit to this. I mean, listen, Mike McDaniel would certainly save his job if they pull that out somehow. Otherwise, he's gone.
I mean, the GM, who probably should be fired, who already said that he's running it back next year with both of them, him and Tua. So I don't know what he's doing, but they like Mike McDaniel, and I mean, look, their last couple of weeks, I know they played the Saints and the Commanders, but their last couple of weeks, right, since the loss to the Ravens, they crushed the Bills, they beat the Commanders in overtime in a different country, then they came back and they beat the Saints. It was closer at the end, but it wasn't that. It was a good game.
Overtime.
I mean, A-Chan's running everywhere. They figured it out. They figured something out, the Dolphins. Just give the ball to A-Chan. Let him do his thing. Give
Look,
it to A-Chan.
if I would tell you before the season that the Dolphins would be 5-7, you'd probably tell me that that's probably about where I thought they'd be through 12 games.
Yeah.
Right?
Through 12 games, yeah. I would say yeah, but if you're going to make me a case for the Bengals, let me make you a case for the New York Jets. No, I'm kidding.
The Cleveland Browns, if they went out, you know, they got a chance.
Actually, they're actually eliminated. I think they have a little E next to there. Oh, no, they're not officially eliminated. Only the Raiders and the Titans are officially eliminated.
There's only two. Actually, I have that list of teams that are officially eliminated. There's only two.
Yeah, it's Raiders, Titans, Cardinals, Saints, and Giants are officially out.
Something like that. Wait, I had a list over here.
The Browns lose this week, and they're out. The Jets lose this week, they're out. If the Bengals lose this week, they're not officially out, but they have
if
to
the
win
Browns
out.
lose this week, they're out because the Ravens and Steelers play each other. That's right. So that would
Correct. And I think that the Jets lose, they're out, and then followed up with I think the Bengals I think if the Dolphins lose this
Cardinals,
week,
Cardinals, Saints, and Giants are the three teams in the NFC that are eliminated already.
Correct. Yeah, the Cardinals. Yeah, I mean that's the Commanders lose this week. They're out. The Vikings are out because they don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
Falcons lose this week. They're pretty much out.
Yeah. No, there's still a lot to be decided. It's kind of fun this year. It's so much parity. There's only like 5 teams in each conference that are done. Everyone else kind of got a shot, right? It's kind of weird.
By the way, which is what you want. I mean, let's be honest. It's what you want out of the NFL. It's not as fun when it's even the Ravens, when it's Ravens, Bills, Chiefs, and then it's like, all right, here's a whole bunch of teams fighting for. It's exciting, you get the Broncos and the Patriots fighting for the 1 seed. We haven't seen that since Brady Manning. That's only been a couple of years.
But we're back to the Brady Manning days. I know.
We have the Jaguars currently sitting in the 3 seed, which is exciting, and then on the other side, like you said, you got the Bears. The Rams, who have just been one of those teams like, hey, go Rams. It's always been like no hate for the Rams. They've always been that team. I mean, they bought their team. They've just been kind of paying everyone. It's always fun to see the Buccaneers and Seattle. Seattle hasn't been around since the 12th man days. And Seattle has a coach that should have been the Ravens coach this year. I'm very salty about that. I don't want to get into that. That's another topic for another
Coach
day.
Of the year candidate.
But he should have been the Ravens head coach. Well, Coach of the Year candidate. Yeah. Well, right now
it's Vrabel.
And don't get it wrong. It's Vrabel. It could be Ben Johnson if he wins the 1 seat.
That's true.
It's not Sean Payton, that's for sure, because the NFL hates Sean Payton.
There are a bunch of Coach of the Year candidates this year. There are.
I think it comes down to if Ben Johnson finishes with whoever finishes with the best record probably ends up with the 1 seed. But I could see a case where if the Patriots finish with the 1 seed but not the best record in the NFL, Mike Vrabel will get it. I could see if Ben Johnson finishes with the 1 seed and the best record, obviously he'll get it. And I could also see him. I think if Ben Johnson gets the 1 seed, the NFC is way harder than the AFC right now. Let's just be real.
Yeah,
the NFC
the AFC's been dominated by the Ravens, Chiefs, and Bills, and those teams aren't good this year. They're decent this year. So like this year,
if those teams make the playoffs, those 3 teams still most likely end up meeting in that AFC Championship.
Right. So that's a good segue. Let's get into the Ravens Steelers. This is the last game we're going to discuss today, and this game has massive playoff implications. Okay, and for obvious reasons, but the Ravens and Steelers' only path into the playoffs for all practical purposes is winning the division. Right? They're not getting the wild card at this point. They're both 6-6. They're sitting 2 games back.
Is there really no? I'll let you continue talking first before I go into that.
They're sitting 2 games. The problem is, Meisty, they're sitting 2 games back of the Bills, and neither of them have the tiebreaker. They both lost to the Bills. That's really the big problem.
Right.
So, and the Ravens lost to the Texans also, and the Chiefs. Like all the teams they need to, overcome. So the Ravens currently sit at 49%. If they win, 65% chance to make the playoffs. If they lose, 23% chance to make the playoffs. Big swing. The Steelers, if they win, go up to 78%, more because of their schedule. They have an easier schedule than the Ravens. If they lose, go down to 31%. Now, what's interesting about this, Meisty, despite the Ravens' odds with a win are lower than the Steelers' odds, but if the Ravens and Steelers split, so long as that Ravens win that other Bengals game, there's a good chance the Ravens will have the tiebreaker there, right? Because the common game's tiebreaker. And this is very interesting. Why? This we'll get into more by the playoff machine. But the Ravens beating the Bears might be the difference between winning this division or not.
It's unbelievable.
How about that? How about that?
What do you mean? What do you know about football or Snoop Huntley?
Yeah.
All right, me getting us to the playoffs.
Tyler Huntley might be the reason the Ravens are in the playoffs this year. I'm just saying.
I'll tell you who's not the reason the Ravens are not going to the playoffs. Cooper Rush, horrible signing. Whoever decided to bring him in, exit door left.
We won't talk about that. We won't. We missed those weeks that we couldn't break him down that week. But it's an absolutely huge game. And listen, it's been a weird year for both the Ravens and the Steelers. Like the AFC North is generally speaking a very competitive division. It hasn't been this year. None of the 4 teams have played particularly well this season. You have the Browns who just kind of set up at the beginning of the season like, we're playing for next year. Like, we drafted a quarterback in the 3rd round and the 5th round. Like, let's just see what we have in them and move on. That's pretty much what it was. You have the Bengals who are like, Joe Burrow's been out most of the year and their defense stinks. Then you have the Steelers. They put an old man Rodgers out there at 42 years old with a broken wrist and a broken nose. You know what I'm saying? Like, other than Darnell Washington and DK Metcalf, they can't get any offense going. And then you have the Ravens, like some reason Lamar Jackson's throwing the ball to the turf every other pass. So, I mean, it's been kind of one of those weird years. And the Ravens and Steelers, 2 teams going into the year where you're like, these are 2 very good teams, and the Ravens should be a juggernaut like they were last year. They haven't been. They started 1-5. It's kind of funny. This is a funny division. The Ravens started 1-5. The Steelers are 4-1, and Vegas barely gave them the edge to win the division. The Steelers.
Yeah.
And we see why.
I mean,
the Ravens
we all
had,
saw that coming. Yeah, we see why.
And I mean, as Ravens fans, we were all kind of like, yeah, it makes sense. But, you know, even on the outside looking in, it's like the Ravens had the Dolphins and the Browns twice and the Jets. They had all these winnable games, and they won all of them. But then they have to win some of these not easy
then last
games
week.
Right. They have to win some of these games that they're not playing the Jets and they're not playing the Vikings. So, I mean, the bottom line is this division is wide open. Everything's in front of them. Someone's got to take the division. And I don't know why I get the feeling, Meisty, this is going to be one of those games where it's like, does someone want to win this game? That's the way these 2 teams have been playing this year. That's the way I think it's gonna play out. I'm done predicting these teams. My goodness.
Yeah, look, the Bengals are hoping that one of these teams split, right? That's what we said. The Bengals want these teams to split.
Yeah, probably.
You know, and even the Browns. Let's talk about the Browns real quick. I'm kidding. But I happen to have the Browns schedule pulled up in front of me, but they're only 3 games behind. You know, and the Browns, I mean,
crazy
the Ravens.
To think about.
Look, it's crazy to think that the Browns are just 3. This is the point of the season where normally the Browns have been long eliminated, and the Ravens, Steelers, or Bengals have 10+ wins, and everything is, you know, la, and then Cleveland fans are probably thinking, look, we just got to beat the Titans, the Bears, the Bills, and the Steelers, and the Bengals. And maybe, just maybe, you know, we'll find ourselves making a playoff push, but probably not because the best record they can have is 8-9, and that will not get you into the playoffs probably without a division win in the AFC. But going back to where we were talking about Ravens Steelers here, I do think the Ravens win this game. I do think the Steelers probably win the next one, or vice versa. I do think that they're going to end up splitting. I hope not, obviously, as a Ravens fan. But I do think as well that the Ravens can't lose this game. Even though their schedule ahead of them, the Ravens cannot afford to lose it. They can lose Week 18 and still be in the playoffs and still win their division, but the Ravens cannot lose this week. This week puts them in a place where if they lose this week, they are sitting in one of the worst spots ever. Because and I'm just going to pull up a quick Ravens schedule here.
Well, then they need to win out. Then they need to win out to make the playoffs. If they lose this week, they can still win out.
Sure, but let's discuss this. They still have to, then they play the Bengals again, who just beat them. Probably can win that game, possibly. But then they got to play the Patriots and the Packers.
Yep, I'm well aware.
That's not pretty.
No.
You have to win this game. You win this game, you put yourself a game and a half up on the Steelers. You win next week against the Bengals. You put yourself maybe even 2 weeks, you know, on the Steelers. Then you put yourself up another game, and then you could lose your game to the Patriots, and then you could maybe, you know, lose the game to the Packers and still be in a good place. You don't want to lose both of them, but you could and get away with it. But the Steelers, on the other hand, they can't afford to lose either this week. You know, they lose this week. Yeah, they get the Dolphins next week. Then they got to play the Lions and the Browns, who could beat them again. And then they go and play Week 18 might be Sunday Night Football, Ravens, Steelers, winners in the playoffs, Losers going home. That's
it might
it doesn't
be.
get better. That's Ravens Steelers football right there. Winner goes. Usually it's winner or loser goes to the wild card, but that's Ravens Steelers football right here. You better. The Ravens better be ready to play, dude. If I'm the Steelers, you want to intimidate the Baltimore Ravens Week 18. If that's the case, you better bring Troy Polamalu. All right, Polamalu. You better bring Troy Polamalu. You better bring Troy Polamalu out and with all his Super Bowl rings. And you better bring Marvin Harrison and whatever his name is and all those guys and have them just stand right on the sideline and be like, no, have them give me Troy Polamalu lined up in the backfield in the back right now. I'll take him any day over anyone on the Baltimore Ravens. He will kill filet. He'll eat falafel like it was falafel.
I think you broke it down very well. I think the interesting thing with the Ravens is that if the Ravens win the next two games, they're probably good. Because these next two games are massive for the Ravens. If the Ravens beat the Steelers and then beat the Bengals, they'll have the tiebreaker with the Steelers regardless of what happens that second game because they have the division. They'll be tied for the division, and then the common games they'll have because of the Bears, the Tyler Huntley game as we discussed. So you're correct, meaning if they win these next two games, they could probably afford to lose both the Patriots and Packers game. So it's absolutely huge. This game is huge. This next game is huge. In contrast, if the Ravens lose this game, they still control their own destiny, but what are the odds of beating the Bengals, Patriots, Packers, and Steelers all in a row? Not very high, right?
Correct. Now the other thing is, for the Bengals, just to get into that real quick, the Bengals are the team. Obviously, they have a tough game this week, but a win this week, and even if they lose to the Ravens next week,
they can't lose to the Ravens.
They still are in it.
They can't lose to the Ravens.
If they lose to... Why? If the Bengals win this week,
they need to gain a game on the Ravens. They need to gain a game on the Ravens.
I need to get into the playoff machine.
They need to gain a game on the Ravens. I mean, practical purposes, they need to gain a game on the Ravens. Because they need to gain a game on the Ravens, and they need to gain an additional game on the Steelers because they're not playing the Steelers again. They already split with them. So there's some interesting things there with division records because the Bengals only lost one division game, and if they lose to the Ravens, they would lose two, and the Ravens would have two, and then it would go to common games, and the Ravens have the common game. They wouldn't even have the tiebreaker if they lose to the Ravens. So they need to beat the Ravens. That's a prerequisite to them making the playoffs, essentially. But for the from the Steelers' perspective, if they lose this game, they're in trouble. From the Ravens' perspective, if they lose this game, they could still control their own destiny, but very difficult to control your own destiny against that schedule. So it's just a massive.
Do you think that we're going to have a 9-8 team in the playoffs from the AFC North? Do you think the winner of the AFC North is going to be probably 9-8?
Oh, absolutely.
Can we see an 8-9? Can we see an 8-9 team?
If the Ravens and Steelers split, 8-9 is possible, but less so. If the Ravens and Steelers split, then certainly it's a possibility. Both of them just have to lose the one other game.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. They
Right.
split. Let's say the Ravens. Yeah, dude. I've made fun of a lot of teams for being 8-9 with a losing record, or really back in the day it was 7-8 or 7-9.
You're gonna have to eat your words.
No, I would still say the Ravens are probably not going to. Now, the best thing that can happen to the Ravens, well, actually probably not, but the best thing that can happen to the Ravens, even with the losing record, is they end up playing a team like Chargers, or they end up playing, because you're going to get the 4th seed. So winning the division, your best hope is that you play a team like the Chargers or the Colts.
True.
And you hope that's not the Texans, because obviously if the Texans make it, that means that they went into a really hot streak. The Chiefs could be that team, but at the end of the day, your hope is that you get a hardball bowl and you can win. That's all you have to do. Get to the division round. Yeah, you're probably going to go to the division round. What? You'll either probably play the Patriots or the Broncos.
Well, we discussed the Jaguars. The Jaguars could be the 5 seed because of their schedule, so that's a possibility as well.
Well, no, the Jaguars could win their divion, be the 3
and also
seed
be a 5 seed. I mean, both possibilities exist.
Yeah. I mean, I think having the 3 seed is probably the best seed to have. I will say this: you do not want to be the 2 seed in the AFC.
No, yeah.
I think you're either playing the Bills, you're playing the Texans, you're playing the Chiefs, you're playing whichever team's coming in as hot as possible. And not this year do you want to play that team. Usually, the 7th seed in the AFC, or even both sides, is the team that has been on a losing streak down the stretch, and they got screwed, and they're like, oh, we lost, week 16, 17, 18. We lost our division. We ended up in the 7th seed. Nope, not this year. You're going to be playing the hottest team coming into the playoffs. Do not be the 2 seed.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
I hope it's the Patriots. I hope it's the Patriots.
It's a weird year this year where, like, the Ravens don't look good at all, but at the same time, if they make the playoffs without a Kansas City Chiefs in there, you're liking their chances a little better. Now, they got to play better.
Yeah.
But, like, if you're a team like the Ravens or Bills, and those are the 2 teams that have failed to get over the hump, and there have been, like, the second best, it's Mahomes and it's Allen and Lamar, right? You're like, whoa, we can be in the playoffs without. We haven't had our best years. The Bills have also had their struggles. Not as much as the Ravens, but they've also had their struggles. We haven't had our best years, but, like, this might be our best chance if we can turn it on in the playoffs, just because we're going to have to go into New England, go into Denver. I mean, these are good teams, very good teams, playing at a high level. But that's not going into Kansas City. That's not playing Patrick Mahomes, who's unbeatable in the playoffs. Like, you actually have an opportunity this year to make a run. Before my preseason prediction was Bills to win the Super Bowl. I still think I'm sticking with it. Like, if there's no Mahomes and Josh Allen's way, that's my guy.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think I had the Ravens obviously preseason. As a Ravens fan, I was bought into what was happening in Baltimore here. But I do agree with you. I think that Buffalo, this is the year. Buffalo just make the playoffs. Hope you don't see Kansas City at all. Who's stopping Josh Allen in the playoffs?
No one.
The only person?
No one.
Josh Allen. Josh Allen is the only person who can stop Josh Allen in the playoffs.
And he generally doesn't. He generally plays pretty well in the playoffs. And it's just Mahomes.
Correct. He's been correct. And don't get me wrong, the Patriots can beat them. The Broncos can beat them.
Certainly.
But if you had to say it's Jaguars, Buffalo, who you taking? Buffalo. Buffalo versus Baltimore, who you taking? Buffalo. Buffalo versus any team. Now, the only other team that can make them possible could be the Texans. And I think, Rocky, that for the first time ever, I'm not saying ever, I don't think this is the first time ever, I don't know, I have to go look. But for one of the first times in who knows how long.
Darn it. Oh, my bad.
Time that happened. That's the question. And Rocky, are you hearing me still?
Now I got you. Got you back.
I was saying before, when was the last time the AFC Championship game was played at a wild card team? I think very easily, if you have a situation where Buffalo, the Texans, the Chiefs make the playoffs, right? They're going to take care in the division round. The Patriots can get knocked out. The Broncos can get knocked out. The Jaguars and Ravens might not even win the wild card round, just the way they've been, right? It could be a scenario we're looking at, and we're going to Buffalo. We're going to Buffalo, who's the 5 seed. Next thing you know, we're in Buffalo, and they're playing the Chiefs in Buffalo.
I know.
It can happen.
It's a great picture you're drawing.
It can happen.
It's a great picture you're drawing, and I absolutely.
I have to look into. I gotta ask my good friend ChatGPT when last time. I don't even know if they know.
No, that's a great question. I don't know if that's ever happened. Has a wildcard team ever hosted an AFC champ? Up until a few years ago, you only had 2 wildcard teams in each conference. It was even less likely to happen, right? But I mean, your point is absolutely correct. Meisty, if we have a situation in which the Ravens or Bills go to New England or go to Jacksonville, who do you think Vegas is going to favor? The Ravens/Bills or Jaguars/Patriots? The Ravens and Bills will probably both be favorites in those games. On the road, right?
Okay, here's the answer. That's a lie.
What does it say? ChatGPT lies all the time.
No, I asked Bing. I don't know why. My computer resets, so I don't even have. But I said, has a wildcard team ever hosted a conference championship? And it said yes. The Houston Texans hosted the Philadelphia Eagles in 2008.
Yeah, right. Actually, 2008, the Pittsburgh Steelers hosted the Baltimore Ravens in the AFC Championship game.
Here it is. This is what they meant. The San Francisco 49ers in 2008 hosted the Philadelphia Eagles, who are also a wild card team. Now, I'd have to look into this exactly and make sure that is correct.
That is not correct. The 2008 The Steelers played the Cardinals in the playoffs. The Cardinals did play the Eagles in the AFC
All right,
Championship.
Cardinals. So here you go again. I asked it again, and now it's telling me the Cardinals versus the Eagles.
Yeah, that makes sense. That was true. That's true, actually. The Cardinals did host the yeah, that's right. They were both wild card teams.
2008
Oh, that's right.
NFL playoffs.
Right.
I don't even know what I clicked in.
Right, because the Cowboys won the division that year in the Eagles division, and then the Cardinals, who won that division? I don't remember that year actually, but that was with Kurt Warner and Fitzgerald.
Playing in their first playoff game at home. Woo. Okay. Let's see. Playoff standings. 2008 playoff standings for the NFC. You had Giants won the conference.
Giants won.
Panthers, Vikings. No, it says the Cardinals won their division.
Yes, but so they're not a wild card team. The two wild card teams that year were the Eagles.
No, the wild card team were the Falcons and the Eagles. Yes, I guess you're saying since we've only added a recency that we've added this additional.
So it's
team.
never happened. It's never happened, Meisty. A wild card team has never hosted an AFC championship game ever.
And by the way, it shouldn't have hosted a wild card, a national conference championship game. Obviously, now with 7 teams, it's more likely,
right.
But it still shouldn't happen. And we're looking at a scenario where it can happen.
Absolutely,
it can happen.
It can happen.
It can happen.
Like I was saying, if the Bills or the Ravens went into Jacksonville, who's favored in that game? The Jaguars or the Bills or Ravens?
Yeah, no, Bills Ravens.
Of course, and the Chiefs. Same goes for them, right? The Chiefs, those three
Chiefs are in the playoffs. They are favored every game, no matter where.
Absolutely. And the Ravens have been a Vegas darling this year. They've been favored. They're favored by 6 this week against the Steelers. By the way, what do you think? Ravens by 6. They're gonna cover?
I don't think we cover. We haven't covered in a long time. I do think that we win. I hope so, at least. I just want to say, if the Ravens and Steelers would make one trade in their team history, can we just trade coaches? Not that Mike Tomlin's a good coach anymore. I would love to see Mike Tomlin in the purple and black.
That would be interesting. And Harbaugh and
you know what actually would be great? I would love to see, because Joe Flacco has to complete the AFC North cycle.
North, get him on the Steelers.
Let him next year sign up with the Steelers, and then John Harbaugh can be his coach again next year as a Pittsburgh Steeler. All right, and we'll take Mike Tomlin and Lamar Jackson, and we will go probably 9-8, just because that's what Mike Tomlin does. Goes 9-8.
What a call! Oh, what a call! That's great stuff.
You know what's funny? Mike Tomlin's probably going to lose his job at the end of the season, and it's the first time in his career that he's going to be not 500. And now, not 500 this year.
We'll see. Right, he'll that. By the way, that's significant. Whether or not the Steelers go over 500, I think might determine Mike Tomlin's fate in the offseason. Because even though he's never had a losing season, it maybe shows a trend, like, oh, he's lost his mojo or whatever. You know, I mean, I don't know if that should be the case.
I do believe he is the Giants, possibly the Giants' next head coach.
Oh, listen, I always say this about Mike Tomlin. Someone was saying if the Steelers fire Mike Tomlin, you know, the Giants will pick him. The Giants will pick him up in 5 seconds. True, and by the way, that would be great for them because why? Mike Tomlin has kind of had the Steelers in a place for a decade now where they're good but not great. That's just where they are.
Yeah,
they're not.
And that's any bad team. For any bad team, that's where you want to be.
Exactly. The Giants aren't looking to make a Super Bowl run like the Steelers are. The Giants are looking to win 9-10 games every year and get their fans excited.
Giants next year with Malik Neighbors and if freaking what's his name Jackson Dart learn how to play real quarterback and not college quarterback.
No, he's pretty good.
And the defense is pretty good. They have a team next year that can win 10 games. 9 games, 10 games for sure.
Put Mike Tomlin in there, forget it. It's automatic winning season.
That's what I'm saying. Now, I will say this. John Harbaugh is the same way. They can let him go. And he'll find a new job. Trust me. The Raiders will be looking for a coach probably within the next year. A lot of these coaches...
The Jets would hire him so quickly, you wouldn't even be able to say quick.
The Jets hire anyone who came from the Ravens. Rex Ryan, Joe Flacco, Ed Reed. I mean, they'll take anyone they can get their hands on from the Ravens. So, of course, that's what they'll do. But I know, and I heard on a podcast, I think it was, he said, I would love to see John Harbaugh go coach Michigan.
Oh, that's
Michigan
a great one.
Yeah, Harbaugh train.
He's not a college guy.
No, he's not.
Okay, so you're 6.
Anyway.
So Ravens by 6. You're going Steelers cover. I'm also going to go Steelers cover. Who's going to win? I don't know. I think this is a toss-up 50-50 shot for me. I'm surprised Vegas is going Ravens 6. Lamar didn't practice today. I mean, I'm assuming he's going to play, but he didn't practice today. It's noteworthy, and he hasn't. No. He's been hobbled up the entire season. And certainly it's looked to affect his quickness and his agility. So it's a factor.
Sure.
It's a factor. And we're going to discuss the Ravens and Steelers more, of course, down the stretch here. There'll be some big games. They're all playing down the stretch here this season. Fine. So that we're going to wrap it up there, Meisty. Wrap it up with the Ravens Steelers. Some big games, leverage games, playoff leverage games. Next week, I'm sure there'll be a bunch more. And we'll try to do the same thing next week. Go through the games that have the biggest playoff leverage. We can go through the Browns, Titans, but I don't think much of you are interested in that. So, Shador Sanders, maybe.
No.
That'll maybe generate some hype. But
you want to know something? Do you know the over-under in that game?
I'm going to guess 38.5.
33, Rocky.
What?
33.
33?
Dude, there is no scoring happening in that game. And by the way, I think it goes over that game. And I think that the Browns actually put up a good game because they have the players. They just maybe can't. Shador's not him. Don't get me wrong. I'm not giving Shador much credit. But that defense might not give up a single point. That defense might score them. That defense can easily get a pick six. Can put them in great field position every time. Judkins can get going. Couple runs from Judkins. Boom. Next thing you know, you're in the game.
I guess we were doing a Browns-Titans preview today. I didn't know that was happening, but that was something that was on the docket. But listen, I guess it is. Maybe Cam Ward can show something. I mean, listen, there's something to watch in that game. Just, I just didn't figure it would be.
The young stars of the future.
Cam Ward versus Shador Sanders. This might be the 2027 Super Bowl. You never know. Wait, not Super Bowl. AFC. Now I'm like ChatGPT putting two AFC teams in the Super Bowl. The 2027 AFC Championship game. Anyway, we'll wrap it up there, guys. Good to see everyone back, and we'll be with you more down the stretch here as we approach the play. It's crazy that the season's almost over. It's absolutely crazy. The playoffs. Peace out, everyone.